We are going to be talking about a team which really, really needs a title win at the Indian T20 League. Let's talk about Arun's hometown, Bangalore, here at Timeout with SportsAdda.
Is it still Isala Kapnamade? Will that
Yeah.
materialize eventually?
Well, you've worked with Karnataka cricket and you've worked with Karnataka cricketers for so long, and their Ranji Trophy record is good. They've won so many Ranji Trophy titles, but in so many seasons, Arun, the Indian T20 League has progressed. They've had numerous players, numerous coaches. I've lost count of the number of coaches that they've have had changes, but still no title. So Bangalore has really a lot of things to look forward to now.
We're starting with a near clean slate, Akhil. Near clean slate. I won't say a completely clean slate, but yeah, I mean, it's got to end. That run has got to end, hasn't it? How long can Bangalore not have an IPL title, an Indian T20 League title? Uh, what's going to be interesting this time, Akhil, is they've changed the coaching setup. They've tweaked the coaching setup, right?
Yeah.
Mike Hessen's still there, director of cricket operation, and I think he'll have a major influence on the team. But it's interesting to note that Sanjay Bangar is now the head coach. What kind of influence will Sanjay Bangar have over this team is something I'm really looking forward. I'm waiting to see.
There are two big changes for fans per se that have happened in the team, and we must talk about them. And we'd love to see. I'd love to see what kind of reactions there are from people who listen in to us and about these two things happening. One is AB de Villiers is not coming back. He's been with the franchisee for a long time, so he's definitely not coming back as a player. And we all know how important he was to give them those match-winning innings in the middle overs, get them matches from absolutely where they had no chances to or they had no rights to win those matches. AB was getting them those victories. So how big a loss is that, Arun? I mean, you have had players who've retired, who've not come back for the league, but AB de Villiers not coming to Bangalore. Is there a possible to find any player like that to replace him?
There can only be one AB de Villiers. In this game, in our generation, there can only be one player who can do the Superman kind of thing. That's AB de Villiers. You cannot expect you. I mean, it would be wrong to expect another player to be able to do those kind of things. I mean, those are superhuman, Superman thing. Like, I mean, to polish off improbable run chases, to score 31 ball hundreds, not in T20 but in one day international. And those were things you did not imagine were possible on a cricket field, but this man made it happen. So it's not fair to expect we will see such players coming, and that will be a huge miss in the Bangalore lineup. Having said that, I think there's an opportunity for somebody else to write a new chapter, right? And that's the most that's the most interesting thing about these auctions.
Hmm. Also, the big thing and the big news that a lot of people are looking forward to, and I've seen so much traction being written about it on social media. Uh, who's going to be the next captain? That is one question that they've not had to answer for the last 7-8 years since they've had one captain going on. But Virat has thought it's enough now. I mean, Pooran doesn't want to take that pressure of captaincy anymore. Might want to just enjoy his batting. So he's left the captaincy for whatever reasons. But now they need a new captain. Why not Glenn Maxwell? Do you think Glenn Maxwell is not captaincy material? They can go for Glenn Maxwell. Otherwise, who are the options you think they will have to go for at the auction?
Couple of observations before I reply to your question, Akhil. When I mentioned Sanjay Bangar and Mike Hassan earlier in our program, I mentioned it because I thought this is no longer a Virat Kohli team. If you had a Virat Kohli's team, it was Virat Kohli's strategy, it was Virat Kohli's decision making, it was his team, right? Now, whose team is it? That's an absolutely brilliant question that you have. Whose team is it? Now, how do RCB, how do Bangalore approach this auction? How do Bangalore approach this season, the next season, right? If I were captain, I mean, a cricket team is run by the captain, right? We've seen what happens if cricket teams are run by the coaching staff. We've seen how England have had a disastrous run with the coach calling the shots. It hasn't quite worked out well in cricket. So in the context of this auction, in the context of Bangalore as a team, who is going to call the shots? Whose team is it anyway? Right? You spoke about Glenn Maxwell as a possible captain. Uh, he captains Melbourne Stars in the Big Bash League.
Yes.
He's one of those cricket nafis, Akhil, like a Ricky Ponting. Glenn Maxwell lives, breathes, speaks cricket all the time. So he'd be a good man for the job, but is he ready for the pressures that come with captaining an Indian T20 league set? That's what we'll have to wait and see. And therefore, I have question marks, I have concerns about that. I don't think he quite fits the bill of being a Bangalore captain.
Good viewpoint there, and we'd love to see what people who follow Bangalore have an opinion about that. But interesting to see the kind of retentions they've made. I had a couple of thoughts there, so if we can have a look at the retentions that they've made, uh, these are all prominent names. They're all international stars. Each of them capable of winning games. Though I'm not very sure Mohammad Siraj we've yet seen the best of in T20 cricket. So these are top retentions, right? You couldn't argue with any of them. Would you have gone for maybe one more, somebody like a Yuzvendra Chahal who's been with them for so long, or somebody like a Devdutt Padikkal, for example? He is the future of Indian cricket. He is from Karnataka, so he's like a local boy. Might connect very well in the future, and he's a left-handed opener. So any of those might have been possible options.
Couple of things on that graphic, Akhil, on that shortlist that we saw. I'm a little baffled with Maxwell's price. We said 11 crores on that graphic, but if you
Yeah.
read, if you go back to what happened last year, he
Yeah.
was signed up on the auction for 14.25 crores. I remember, if I
Yes.
remember correctly. So
Yes.
so here you go. Here's confirmation. Glenn Maxwell in the previous IPL player auction was signed up by Bangalore for 14.25 crores. This time, with his consent, he's only signed up for 11 crores. So I'm kind of somewhere the math doesn't add up to me. I mean, I'm like, if I'm thinking from Maxwell's perspective, why? Maxwell surely is capable of fetching big numbers at the auction, but that's a call. That's a discussion between Bangalore and Maxwell. That's the first bit. Second bit, I'm happy for Siraj. You briefly mentioned Siraj. I'm happy for Siraj because it's one of those feel good stories to come out of the league, Akhil. You
Yes.
want such players to benefit from the league, right? And Siraj has not only his finances not only gotten better, he's become a better bowler. Akhil. Honestly, feel his cricket's improved significantly in the last 2 years, and credit must be given to Virat Kohli, the captain of Bangalore, the erstwhile captain of Bangalore, and to the Bangalore management for backing him 1 year, 2 years, and now for retaining him. That's my initial thoughts on that list. Now, Padikkal would have been a perfect match for Bangalore. I thought. I honestly thought Padikkal would have been signed off, but again, I don't know uh, what the reasoning
Commercial
is,
thing.
but yeah, I don't know what the logic, what the reasoning is, but my fourth preference would have been Padikkal.
It would have been a much logical option. And again, I'm sure that people who listening to us will have an opinion about that. Why not Devdutt Padikkal? I mean, he's given you runs last year. He's a left-handed opener, very rare combination, very rare Indian opener to be a left-handed and just strike brilliantly. So I'm sure they'll try go back to him at the auction.
And a very sound head on his shoulder, Akhil, most importantly. Very grounded boy. You speak to him, you read about him, you listen to his interviews. Very grounded, very rooted individual. So I thought that we don't know what's happening in those boardrooms, but sitting outside, I thought that would have been a perfect fit matchup, but not to be.
Okay. One thing that I've been disappointed with what Bangalore have always worked on, Arun, is the kind of money that they spend at the auction. And I'm not very sure the kind of returns that they always get. So they've been amongst teams who've spent a lot of money at the auctions to get particular. They've splurged, if I might use that word.
That's the
They've
word.
splurged
Yeah.
at the auction and not always got the best returns. So the last time we saw the graphic there, we got Kyle Jamieson at 15.25 crores, uh, Glenn Maxwell 15 crores for Kyle Jamieson, 14.25 for Glenn Maxwell. But these are not players who are still giving you. You're not even getting close to the titles, Arun. To be very blunt, you're not reaching finals. You're not losing finals by 10 runs, 5 runs, 7 runs, where you're constantly competing in the finals. So this logic of Bangalore having to buy players at high prices, and now I've heard a couple of reports on social media where I've heard an ex-cricketer saying that they are keeping a purse of say 20 crores for Shreyas Iyer. So these are all good for headlines, isn't it? But are they even giving you impact, like getting you to the finals or for the team, for the fans? That is something that I've been disappointed with Bangalore.
I'll give out a few numbers, Akhil. I'm looking back at tracing the journey of the auctions over the last few years. 2014, Bangalore paid Yuvraj Singh 14 crores. 2015, Bangalore paid Dinesh Karthik 10.5 crores. Right? 2017, Bangalore paid Timal Mills of England 12 crores. And then obviously last auction we saw 14.25 crores for Maxwell and 15 crores. So you're right. I mean, they splurge money, yes. We shouldn't have a problem with splurging money if you're getting the returns, if you're making those finals, if you're winning those titles. That somewhere doesn't add up. That's the missing link for me. I think Bangalore need to be sensible. There's no dearth of talent, Akhil. In the Bangalore setup, there's no dearth of talent in terms of heads. You've got coaches, you've got a director of cricket operations, you've got a mentor, you've got a manager, you've got a data support team, you've got all of that. But what's needed is, look, we need 15 players. I mean, you're allowed to carry 24, 25 players, but we need a solid team of 15 players who can win us games. I think Bangalore have often been distracted by headline making players.
Good one.
It's the Yuvraj Singh, it's the Dinesh Karthik, Timal Mills. I mean, look at what England have done. They went on reputation and brought Timal Mills to the World Cup. Didn't last, right? Often Bangalore they've been distracted by headline makers. I think they need to shrug away, look aside, and say, okay, guys, cricketing logic. I see this player capable of scoring runs. This player fitting into my opener. This player fitting into my 3, 4, 5. Much like Mumbai do. Mumbai know their roles very well. They are not swayed or influenced by headline makers. Same with Chennai. I think Bangalore just needs to look plainly at performance. And when I say performance, not numbers. They need to look at individual capabilities and say, pencil him for number 3, pencil him for number 4.
Good point. Very, very good point there. And before I go and ask for your picks and who are the players that you think should be there, there is one little out of the box kind of player that I wanted to mention. And if I were in the management, I would have really push for his case being retained. Washington Sundar, Arun. Washington Sundar is probably one of the finest bowlers in white ball cricket in 20 over formats in India. He's shown that he can bat wonderfully at under pressure situations, and he's still very, very young. I would have really had like a long discussion if I were the Bangalore management with Washington Sundar to try and retain him or to try and keep him as one of my retained players. And I would have gone in probably with a very, very again different strategy. Try and have a very young captain with a Washington Sundar. Try and look at him as a captain material with Virat Kohli there, obviously to support him and help him with whatever decisions are needed. But Washington Sundar is a very, very smart guy, very, very smart cricketer. I would have loved to have him and retain him as a team member.
I'll agree with that bit. He would have been a very, 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 very impressive retention. But like I said, you don't understand, the logic behind these decisions made in those boardrooms. I'm not so sure about his captaincy credentials yet because we've not seen a lot of it. So retention, yes. Captaincy, question mark at the moment. Here's what I'm thinking, Akhil. I think Bangalore will pursue Shreyas Iyer for captain. They will break the bank. Couple of other points I want to make. I think Bangalore will have a heavy Kiwi influence in the side. I'm
Yeah.
looking at somebody like a Finn Allen for that matter, a Glenn Phillips, a Tim Seifert for that matter, a Adam Milne for that matter, Jimmy Nisham. If they identify those roles, I think they will chase those Kiwi players. One other name I
Good
want to
point.
talk about is a potential Jofra Archer, RCB, in a Bangalore jersey. And the reason I say this is because I say potential because he might not be available this coming season. But if you're looking at Jofra Archer's ability, and he just fits into that Bangalore image, doesn't he? He's cool,
Good one.
good cricketer.
He's cool. He's cool. He's
He's
cool.
a
He
match
fits into
winner.
that culture. Yeah,
Yeah.
he fits in that culture wonderfully, and he's a match winner. He could be like the replacement for a Chris Gale, so he fits in that culture very well. Also, one name we have to speak about is Harshal Patel. Uh, Underrated. Nobody expected him to do the kind of numbers that he did last year, but both bowled well. Came in from a transfer from Delhi, so he was not really picked in an auction, but he's going back in the auction. Bangalore would like to have him back. Relied a lot on him to bowl the important end overs last year, so he's an interesting pick again.
He's an interesting pick, but I go back to my point, the point I made earlier, Akhil. Who is going to pick these sides? I mean, eventually, is Sanjay Bangar going to pick 23 players or 24 players and telling the captain to be that here's your 24 players, go captain the side? I mean, I don't understand how this is going to pan out for Bangalore.
Hmm.
It's difficult. A normal auction itself would be very difficult to predict. It's just that much more complicated with Bangalore because you don't know who the captain is and who's picking the side. Any other year, you could have understood Virat Kohli's line of thought and you could have predicted to a certain degree. But this time, we're all shooting blanks.
All right, cool. So we are going to get Arun's predictions on three players that he thinks that Bangalore will go after. We'd love to see what your predictions are. And again, we are running a contest here at Timeout with SportsAdda, like we do in all our sessions. Yeah, just given your answers, players you think are should be picked up by the Bangalore franchisee. Go to our YouTube section, write in the comment section your suggestions, your answers. And if they are close or they are the actual picks that Bangalore does in the auction, then you stand to win Timeout with SportsAdda merchandise. So that's the contest from our side that we are running here on this episode. Arun, your three picks before we wrap this episode for Bangalore. Three picks and a captain also.
I'll give you 6 names. It could be
Six is too many. You have to give us three.
Three
with
of
the
those
captain.
6. So Shreyas Iyer, Steve Smith, Manish Pandey, my first set of 3 players. And then there's Finn Allen, Glenn Phillips, Tim Seifert, my next set of 3 players. So I'm saying there'll be 3 out of these 6 picked. I'm expecting those to be picked.
Okay.
If you want a third
Arun
one, you went to Chahal.
Yes, Yajuvendra Chahal is definitely going back to Bangalore. They'll, I think, buy him back at whatever price they get him at. Okay, so these are Arun's picks. We are all excited to see what kind of splurging Bangalore does against in the auction, and we'll be back again after the auction to talk about those and see if we are close to what Bangalore was thinking. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode.